Welcome back to It's Not a Sport. All right, so this week I talk about League of Legends and how they fail to balance the game and the problems and why they fail to balance the game and how they should balance the game and fix that in order to help the game grow. We also talk about NA esports and how we don't practice and we need to practice and how we can solve that and really grow internationally as a region. In esports, currently Overwatch League is about to start playoffs on July 11th. The first seed is New York. The second is Los Angeles Valence. The third is Boston Uprising. Fourth, Los Angeles Gladiators. Fifth is London Spitfires. And sixth is Philadelphia Fusion. In League of Legends esports, they just finished Rift Rivals with EU coming on top in the finals with 3 wins, 1 loss, and NA with 1 loss, 1 win, 3 losses. Let's move on to our next segment. Alright, welcome back. Since we're talking League of Legends in this week's episode, I wanted to give my insight on why I believe why the balance is just such a mess in the game and has been for the past couple years at least. The main reason behind this is one, because it's such a big game. It's really huge and it's really hard to balance. They can never get anything right. They can't change one thing without affecting the other. But that's not really the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem with League of Legends and why it can never be balanced is because no matter what they do, they'll always change the fundamentals of the game. And we, the player base, although it keeps it spicy, things always keep changing, will never really settle down to the fundamentals of the game. And what makes a good player is how well you can adapt to the new fundamentals. And what I mean by that is that if you look at a game like Fortnite, for instance, Fortnite updates every 2 weeks or every week with something new, something crazy, a new gun, a new mechanics, something like that. And if I take a break from Fortnite, it doesn't matter how I'll change the game. I may be rusty, yes, but it doesn't matter, because when I come back, there's the premise, the core mechanics of the game are I build, I grab a gun, and I shoot. I know building's not going to change, and I know shooting's not going to change. The damage between guns and, that may change, but shooting somebody and building will not change. And that's why that game will always, it's much easier to always come back to, get into, and you're not going to get frustrated with it because it's an even more playing field. With League, it's not like that. And it's perfect why I'm explaining this is with the current meta, with ADCs just being completely kind of gone from the game, is because they changed the fundamentals of the game. So now they basically messed up their core mechanics or core roles of the game, which is top lane, jungler, mid lane, support, and AD carry. If you look at actual sports, like basketball for instance, you'll always need a point guard. If football, you always need a quarterback. You always need somebody to play defense. You always need someone to, do whatever job they're meant to do. Because in the game, they can add new rules, yes. They could take out new rules. They can change it. But the core fundamentals will never change. And that's why this league is in such a mess and has been for a couple years now. I mean, what I would recommend is that Riot as a company needs to either do maybe three big updates each year like throughout the entire season, because I don't think, yes, adding new updates and changing things every 2 weeks is cool, but it's not when the game, if you want the game to be truly competitive, you can't really do that. You need to just keep things how they are no matter what they affect, unless it's truly awful. You need to just keep things how they are. And the second thing is that they just need to really sit down, look at each mechanics and fundamentals of each role, and understand where their power points are, where things get iffy, what's good, what's bad. And I think they do a good job of that. But this year has just been completely off the rails, and I'm kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt with the new ruin changes. Yes, that changed the whole game a lot, and we don't know how to balance around that. But even though that really hasn't affected the game as much now, especially where we are in the game, than it has like when the ruins first came out. So that's it for this week's rant. We're gonna move on to the esports scene and how NA can do better, and how we're just not, good practicing, and hope we can do better internationally. One, two, three. All right, welcome back. I'm here with Callum and Tito, and currently, Rift Rivals is happening within League of Legends, and there's been a lot of thoughts said, and we're gonna discuss about those thoughts. Perks, which is G2's mid laner, correct?
See?
Said that NA will always be a bad region, and his main argument for this was because our solo queue is a joke environment and is mostly used for streamers and just to have fun, and our teams don't practice enough. What do you guys think of this?
I mean, it's kind of been said a lot in the past. Like, if you ever look back at international tournaments, North America generally has like one or two good teams, and most of the time it's been like Cloud9. I think TSM had maybe like one good international experience. It's like Cloud9, CLG had like a hot run or two here and there, and that's about it. Like, internationally, we are terrible. And then if you look at EU, one, they have an arguably better environment to practice in, even though it was for a long time known as like the more toxic region to play in, but the players were actually better. And
yeah, because you're definitely right, because a lot of the talent that we have now here in NA are EU players, or they came from EU or Korea.
If you look at the streaming as a factor, a lot of the streamers, if you go on Twitch, I know there's other sites too you can stream on, but go on Twitch, most of the top streamers are going to be North American, and then Europe is much less.
That also has to do with like language, though, because I know Twitch like kind of changes towards different languages.
I mean, it's still, if you look at it, it's like, I know most of the streamers that are up there are very high elo or have multiple accounts up there, so the actual pool of high elo players is very small.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like rank just not being a competitive enough environment at really any elo is a major problem, and I feel like it's why, one, we don't do internationally, because like we hear like every time they go to boot camps in Korea, they're like, oh, Korean solo queue it's so amazing, right? Korean solo queue is crazy, and we just don't, over here we just don't take it seriously no matter what. We're too busy, dealing with, ban this player, ban that player.
I mean, that could just be a byproduct of the fact that they have more players and a higher player base, so it will have more, top level players. So the actual like challenge and everything to get into that rank is a lot harder because it's you have a higher player base. So in order to be able
and
to
more of your skill level, there's not like, because I feel like we have so many Smurfs. We
don't have anywhere Diamond 4 issues.
Yeah, we have so many Smurfs. Do you think the upcoming rank changes will help?
What are those
What
changes?
they're adding an extra
They're
tier,
adding
correct?
2 more tiers, and you're now going to be ranked based on your role more. So,
I think the role thing could help. I think that adding more tiers is just going to dilute the pool even more.
well, the point of adding tiers, there's one supposed to be, I think, for silver because the majority of the player base is like silver, and then so it's to help out those people that are like silver, bronze, goldish, and then help out the people who are hard stuck diamond.
But
So
yeah, I mean, I've got some. I think it's honestly yes, there is some RNG and just hoping you get good teammates, but if you're stuck in silver, you're probably stuck in silver for a good reason. That's not that hard to climb out of. The
it's
diamond
not
one is probably a bigger
the
issue
diamond one.
because
I understand.
you could, but like silver, you can hard carry games, especially in this current meta and in some
Yes.
past ones. It was very easy. You know, if you found one good person, like if you literally just played consistently and didn't feed, you would win and climb out of it.
Yeah,
Every season.
I feel like the silver one doesn't help as much, but it may help like with gold and how many Smurfs are in gold. It may help with that, but that's a little. I don't know. It's a little long shotty.
I don't
I
think
think the
it'll
gold
change
one is
anything.
good. The silver one makes no sense because if you can't climb out of that, you are just bad. Like you deserve to be there.
What do you say, Tito?
I don't think it'll change anything
You don't
because
think it'll change it?
so many people are in silver, so it's just gonna be the same thing.
Right. It's just gonna kind of inflate it. The other things that the EU players were saying besides our solo queue being bad is that like our teams just don't practice like at all. They're saying that I think it was the support for G2. This is mostly G2 because they're like
Mhm.
uh maybe I don't recall because they're winning Rift Rivals last time I checked. But they're just taking jabs and saying that when they are scrimming that we don't take scrims seriously enough and that the only team that actually felt like they were actually trying was Team Liquid, and any other team was just like it was a normal solo queue game for them.
Which, I mean, in this meta, a lot I know it threw a lot of players off, and a lot of the newer players that are having to learn these weird characters, especially in bottom lane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it does just kind of turn back into solo queue because you're just reverting to what you know best because you're trying to learn this new character and do these different things. So it makes sense. I've heard other
Yeah.
I forget I can't quote them exactly, but I've
With
heard other
us,
pros and things say that.
I mean, I feel like that's sad that we don't take it seriously, but I also feel like it's also a byproduct of us being a smaller region and not having enough time to adapt to
I mean, I don't think
things.
it we're not a small like we have a smaller player base than Korea and everything like that, but that doesn't mean we can't
I
adapt
feel
and
like
figure
we're
things out
just
for
too hard headed. We're just
ourselves.
too hard headed. That's really it.
I mean, the good North American players that are playing here currently still have been around for a long time, and arguably some of them are more adaptable and others are less adaptable.
But if you look at like
But
Team Liquid, like they haven't. They're still running the. It works for them, but they're still running kind of the standard meta. Like still
Cause
double list,
double
still play on Kaisa. Yeah. Say again, Tito.
it's because double lift is the best ADC in the league right now, so he always wins lane.
But then what about Reckless? Because Fnatic's not using Reckless, and
I
Reckless
mean,
is maybe the best ADC in EU, so to speak.
but I think EU is has a much different meta because EU is a lot more. They figured out how to do the funnel strat and how to do a lot more of the mages and bruisers bottom.
So they just adapt better.
Yeah, I mean that I think goes back to the biggest thing is the fact that other teams, not every team in North America, is actually practicing at the same level. Like I'm sure TSM is practicing a ton. I'm sure Team Liquid is. I would think CLG, especially with Zix, are practicing and trying out different things. But I've heard, I don't remember. I think it may have been Parth said it. That it's kind of no, I don't think it was Parth. That I don't know. It was one of the coaches. It was either it was Prawley actually. Prawley said that it's hard to figure out and practice the new stuff because you only have so much time to scrim, even if you're triple blocking. And if you want to try out this new wonky strat, but they're also trying out a new wonky strat, you don't get any actual practice out of it. because you're both trying out things that you're trying to figure out how they work. But if you're playing it against something else that's unknown, you have no idea. It's just a weird practice problem.
Also
So we
regarding
end up playing the same things.
yeah, and also regarding practice is Uni said, I believe in one of his interviews, is if Riot wants NA to win Worlds, they need to lower our ping, which is interesting because I
now in Chicago we get like 18 ping, but
in
on the
Korea
West Coast,
they get like 7.
Yeah, and the thing is in the West Coast where they're playing, they get like
0 ping when they play on
but
stage.
But when they're actually just practicing, they have 60.
Yeah,
which
hurts solo queue, and it hurts champions like Ryze, because then you can't because Ryze, latency affects Ryze's abilities.
So I think that is a big problem with it. It's hard because we are much bigger. There's much more space in America versus Korea to get that down. But
America's infrastructure is just shitty in general.
Which that goes back to a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's just like history.
It's just we have like 3 to 4 major corporations controlling all the internet, most of the internet in America, and without something coming in and forcing them to upgrade, they can leave it how it is and don't have to change anything about it.
When Riot moved the servers to Chicago, that helped a lot. I think it helped a lot of people out, and it was a real smart decision. But it's kind of weird that
overall, but for the professionals, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't move the studio here as well. Like that doesn't.
Nice.
Yeah, that would have been nice for us. But I don't understand. Like maybe that's a money issue, but they have enough money.
They have enough money, but they would have to relocate. What is it? 10 teams. So all their players, all their staff, all the facilities they have built up. Because keep in mind, by that point, like Team Liquid, I think, was building their giant facility. CLG had basically a giant complex where they housed all their players. All these people would suddenly have to uproot not only just the Riot office, but everyone involved works there. All the teams, all the staff, literally like 1,000 people.
Now I think it's definitely too late. It's too late to make a move like that, but I feel like that would help, practice a lot more.
Honestly, I don't even know enough about servers, but it'd be smart if they could somehow link up a server and have servers on the West Coast, Central America, and also East Coast, and somehow figure out a server thing that way.
How do they do it in Europe?
Europe they have 2 servers.
They have 2 servers.
Yeah,
but it's also much bigger region.
Yeah,
and I believe this main server that they I think it's EU West, right? I
think it's
actually let's Google where that is.
I'm pretty sure it is EU West. I think it may be in Germany. I'm not too sure.
Which is
on other news, Pro Belter was asked about mid lane kind of, and I feel like mid lane's always been kind of a weird. It's been in a kind of a weird state for a couple years now, and how he said there are no good mid laners in NA currently. And one of his quotes that stood out to me is that he was saying that EU mid laners, they go like Fnatic's caps, and they can go for like flashy plays, and then when they fuck up, they'll be like, oh, my mechanics weren't that good, try again. Where here we've gone into this way of kind of copying the Koreans, and they don't really play like this anymore, of just trying to stall the game and stall out the enemy mid laner.
That was more like a meta thing, because the meta used to be like, control mages. Yeah. Now you can actually play the flashy characters. So you saw Pro Belter on the crazy outplay when he was playing Aurelia versus Rumble, right?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen plays like that for a while. It was more back from like Assassins and things as well. That was a big thing when who was it? I think it was Alex Itch, and you got High and Bjergsen doing all these assassin plays,
Like the famous Faker
Faker
Ryu
versus
play.
Ryu.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we had a very extended stretch of just control mages that were very safe. You just farmed, you controlled the mid lane,
And just
nothing
kind of wait for
happened.
your bot lane to, get to that point in the game.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to shine as a mid laner at that, especially in practice that in solo queue. Like the solo queue assassin being just like good at outplaying people transfers much better
Because it was
meta wise versus controlling mid lane with a jungler.
Yeah. Because for a long time, mid lane was never about winning the lane. It was really just about surviving to the other lane's end.
Oh, what about roaming? I would see like the first one to roam and get a kill wins.
But it was
Roam
still
hasn't been a big thing for a while either, unless like something happened. You didn't try and proactively roam.
No.
Like something's happening down bottom, I'll roam because this guy backed you. Or is like you would try and proactively roam and force the guy out, or you would try and force them out so you could roam. Like when Aurelion Sol, like who he was super good at that, and that's why he got a lot of flack for a while, is because he was playing in a meta where he wasn't supposed to roam, but he still tried to, and he'd roam almost too much, so he would lose some like ground in mid lane. That's why I had a huge CS deficit at 10 and 15.
Well, roaming's still part of that same strategy. It's like you're not trying to win mid lane, you're trying to win the other lanes to win your lane.
Yeah.
Which I felt like it just hurt us in the long run. Because, like, I feel like the biggest problem with just NA competitively is just, like, in the old days, we could develop our own style of playing. And then when the Koreans and, the LCS started and, we just lost that. Because then it just became like, okay, let's copy the Koreans.
Well, we didn't lose it because we were just copying the Koreans. I mean, yes, but they figured out the best way to play the game.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, it's literally just because it's like, this is, you can't, no one could figure out a way to beat it, so why not just play that? I mean, there's been instances of people figuring out like their own way of kind of just playing the game in a different way that works, and people don't know how to beat it yet. Like the Marines, and what was the Russian team that did pretty well at, like in Worlds groups and actually took some games off people. It's like people come up with these crazy things. It's just they have to play them well and commit to them.
But like what I'm saying is like that hurt us. I mean like even still, like when you last year's Worlds with the team that was beating SKTs with the who had Hansama as their AD carry. Fuck, I forgot.
Oh, Misfits.
Misfits, yes. Yes. They were using their own style of playing the game, and it was still the best way to play the game with the mid lane pick. What's the name of that champion? And the Ardent Sensor, like putting Ardent Sensor mid lane. It was their style of playing the game. And it's still the best way of playing it, but it was their style. And we used to be like that, and now we're not. It's gone.
I mean,
and
if you want to do, if teams want to do that, it goes back to practicing, as they need to get consistent practice. For I think the number one thing with practice right now is that since we're you're always scrimming against another random team, they probably want to try stuff. You want to try stuff. If you both are trying new things that no one knows how they work, you're not going to get a good result. So you need a good testing environment. You need someone to play like a standard thing for you to test this new crazy strat against, and just play it a ton. But because the season's so short, they're best of ones, and you only have honestly 5 days in between to practice, it's super hard to actually do that. So you just have to kind of follow along.
Yeah. I think best of ones definitely put us at a disadvantage than we already were. I think if you're playing League now, you're not playing to really be the best. I think we preach that all the time, but you're really just playing for the money. Because I think, there's a lot of money, at least in our region.
Yeah, Liquid.
Yeah, Liquid's... Wasn't there a rumor that they're paying Impact $1 million or something like that?
Yeah, that's what salary supposedly was.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing: is Liquid, yes, they put that much money into it, but they're also winning with it. All the players are actually trying, and they have the winning record. They were probably the best performing team at Rift Rivals, North America at least.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think Impact's
There's-
like I think that Liquid's the only like team that's actually kind of seen a return to for it. But then like, what about Golden Guardians or like Clutch, right? They have huge backings with the Golden
Yeah,
State
they
Warriors.
have huge backings, but how much are they actually getting? It's like they have that name behind them, but how much money are they actually getting? They're still on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
The people aren't just like, yeah, here's our bank account, go crazy.
But
And
then it's like if Liquid's like investing in these facilities, then how come like the other teams aren't trying to do that and trying to actually get something out of
they
their
are,
players?
they are. I mean, CLG got a complex similarly. I think even though they aren't doing the best right now, like CLG, especially with Zix and the players that they have, are always a team that's been based around like building the players up that they have and working on them, not just like dropping them for better players. They're actually like working on actively building a stronger and more knowledgeable players. Like they've had most of their academy roster has been the same one they've been playing with for quite some time. I think they've only swapped out their jungler recently,
Right.
but they announced and have their own facility. TSM I don't know, but I think TSM is also the only org still around that hasn't taken a big investment from another place.
Mm-hmm.
I know Cloud9 finally did, CLG did. I think TSM is
100
the
Thieves
only
got
organization that doesn't have a big backing. They're just their money is their own, I believe. I could be wrong about that, unless I missed something.
Say again, Tito.
100 Thieves has like really good investors.
And also
Yeah,
they paid money for good players and a good coach. Like I think probably is super good,
yeah. All right,
and they're doing well with it.
we have about 5 more minutes left, so I want to end kind of with this. Do you think that NA in practice needs more international events to help us grow, or we need more off time in order to actually put down the hours to practice and help our teams grow?
I think international would be the easiest way if there was just like another couple international tournaments, and also I believe scheduling could use um it could be looked at. I mean, I would almost prefer to see either if they're going to do best of ones, more best of ones a season,
Mm,
which someone else has said, like, if you look at, they're looking at like baseball games or something else, and it's like those teams who play way more games, a much higher volume of games a season versus what they're playing the LCS, where it's like you have what 18 games or something like a season, and they're all best of ones.
yeah.
Versus like that's a very small pool. You could fuck up like 5 games and suddenly you're from first to last. Well, that's actually impossible, but you get my point. Versus if you played 50 games, you would see a much bigger variance, and you would actually be able to see the difference in teams. It would come through, or just do like a slightly longer season, say like 12 weeks. I don't know. Hold on, how you would divide it. I don't know how many weeks you would have to do, but only do like one game a week.
Mm-hmm.
So you have one really good. You have one game to prepare for every week. It's a best of 3, and it's a slightly longer season.
Mm-hmm. Tito, what do you think?
I think more international events would help NA because every time Worlds goes around, they always go to boot camp. That seems to help them out. So if there's more of those, there'd be more boot camps, and they get a lot more game knowledge from other regions.
Yeah, I feel like internationals would help a lot. I do like the idea of longer seasons, at least so they could prepare for one game. But I feel like that affects international events like Worlds because we only have 2 splits.
And here's the thing: is like if they did just like one best of 3 a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having to prepare for 2 games and having like 2 days where you're actually at a studio playing, you could actually give the players a little more like rest time in between each week, and also probably get better practice in because of it.
Right.
versus they're burning like 6 days a week, 4 on scrims and whatnot, and then 2 more at the studio playing, and then they get 1 day off most of the time.
Right.
It's like if you only had 1 day at the studio, you could still get 4 or 5 days in, but it would be a little more rest time, I would think.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up here. Callum, Tito, thanks for appearing on the show this week. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this episode of It's Not a Sport. Follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube, our Instagram, etc., all that social media. And tune in next week for another great episode of It's Not a Sport. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.